Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing very well. So in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to make this florist shop book sleeve, so let's get into it. So for this project I'm going to be using a 2.25mm hook. Anywhere between a 2 and 3mm size is also fine. And then for yarn I'm going to be using this oatmeal kind of acrylic cotton blend for the main part of the book sleeve. So this is basically the background, and you're going to need about 100 grams of this, and I used a skein of 100 grams and I still had some left over, so you don't need any more than 100 grams for your main colour. Okay, so for the other colours I have got a variety. So for the canopy I'm using pink and white. For the door I'm using pink, for the window I'm using blue and yellow, and then for the shelf I've got this kind of light brown, and then for the flower pots and the kind of stems or the plants I've got this kind of orange colour and then a dark green, and then I've also got the pale brown for the ladder, as well as dark brown for the sunflower section. So you don't really need like a lot of each colour. I've got obviously a lot more of the orange than some other colours, but as you can see here, this is all I needed for the window sections. So as a kind of baseline I would say about 25 grams per colour, just to be safe. This is all double knit acrylic yarn, by the way. And then I've also got some scissors. You're also going to be needing some pins because we're going to be pinning like all of the pieces onto the work and then sewing them on. And then you're also going to be needing a small sewing needle, and you're also going to need some embroidery thread. I'm going to be using this kind of light colour. You could also use an invisible embroidery thread if that is what you'd prefer. So I'm starting off with the easiest part of the tutorial, which is going to be just making the plain panels for the book sleeve. So you're going to want to just start off with a slip knot with your main colour. So I'm going to be using this oatmeal colour, and I'm going to be making a chain of 36 with this colour. So after you've done that, you're going to want to flip the chain over so that you can see these back bumps, and we're going to be making single crochets into these back bumps. So I'm going to be, as we normally would when we're crocheting our first row, we would skip the first chain and crochet into the second chain from the hook. This time I'm going to flip the chain, I'm going to crochet into the second back bump from the hook. So it's basically just the back bump behind the second chain. So you can see this chain right here we would normally go into, and this time we're going to go into that back bump right there. And then I'm just going to make my single crochet as normal, and then I'm just going to go into each back bump of the row, making one single crochet into each back bump. Okay, so I've just done my last single crochet into each stitch, and we're going to basically be doing 49 rows of single crochet. So I've just done my first row, so now I have 48 more rows to do. After you get to the end of the row, you're just going to chain one and turn the work, and you're just going to make one single crochet into each stitch all the way across. So I'm going to include this tail so I can weave it in, and I'm literally just going to make one single crochet into each stitch all the way down the row. Okay, so I've just done the second row, and then I would just chain one and turn the work, and then make one single crochet into each stitch for the third row. And I'm basically just going to be repeating row 2, where I chain one, turn the work, and make a single crochet into each stitch all the way across until I have 49 rows in total. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you how to make all of the florist shop details after that. Okay, so I've just finished my 49 rows of single crochet, and now I'm just going to fasten off. So I'm just going to chain one and then cut the yarn, Okay, so you're going to want to make a second panel, and now we're going to be working on the canopy. So you're going to want to grab your pink colour and then the white colour, and I don't need the white colour for the time being, so I'm just going to set that aside, but I am going to get a slip knot ready for when we attach it later on. And then for the pink, I'm going to be making a chain of 36, just like we did for the main kind of book cover section. I'm going to be making a chain of 36, so I'm going to make my slip knot and then just chain 36. Okay, so I've got my chain of 36, and now I'm just going to make my single crochet into the second back bump from the hook, and then I'm just going to make one single crochet into each back bump all the way down the row. Okay, so I've just finished all of my single crochets, and now we're going to move on to row 2. So I'm just going to chain 1 and turn the work, and this is where we're going to be doing our colour changes. So I'm going to be changing colours every 5th stitch. So I'm starting off with 5 single crochets in pink, and then I'll be changing to white, and then I'll do 5 single crochets in white and change back to pink, and then so on and so forth. I will just be alternating between the two. So I'm just going to weave this tail in as I go, and I'm going to start my 5 single crochets in pink, and then on the 5th I'm going to be changing to white. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is the 5th. So I'm going to start the single crochet, inserting the hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, and here we would normally yarn over and pull through both loops to finish the single crochet, but I'm going to pick up my slip knot, my white yarn slip knot, and I'm going to finish the single crochet with the white yarn, like so. And then I'm going to be doing 5 single crochets in white. I'm going to carry this pink yarn over, and on the 5th single crochet in white I'm going to change back to pink. So I'm doing my first single crochet in white. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the 5th I'm going to be changing back to pink, so swapping the colours, and I'm going to finish the single crochet off with the pink, and then I'm going to do my 5 single crochets in pink. On the 5th I'm going to change back to white. Okay, so I've reached my 5th single crochet, so I'm going to switch back to white, finish the single crochet with the white, and then 5 single crochets in white, and on the 5th I'm going to change back to pink. Okay, so I've reached the 5th single crochet, so now I'm going to switch back to pink and finish the single crochet with the pink. So I'm just going to repeat that all the way across, doing 5 single crochets in pink, and then on the 5th changing back to white, so on and so forth all the way to the end. Okay, so since the last 5 single crochets are in pink, I didn't carry the white yarn over, I just left it where it was. And now we're going to start the next row, so I'm just going to chain 1 and turn the work. This is now row 3. And now I'm basically just going to be doing the same thing. I'm going to be doing pink single crochets in the pink section, white single crochets in the white section, and then obviously every 5th stitch I'll be switching colour. So I'm just going to do my 5 single crochets in pink. Obviously on the pink, on the 5th pink single crochet I'll be changing to white. So I'm changing to white, and then 5 single crochets in white, and on the 5th I'm going to change to pink. So I'm just going to continue this all the way along, and then when I get to the end of the row for row 4 I would just chain 1, turn the work, and I would repeat the same thing, and I'm going to continue that until I have 9 rows in total. So I have currently 3 rows working on my 3rd row, so I'm going to carry on until I have finished my 9th row. Okay, so I've just finished my last row, that was row 9, and now I'm just going to be fastening off. So I'm going to chain 1 on the pink yarn and cut the yarn, and then I'm also going to cut the white yarn as well. Now we're going to be working on the kind of ridges along the canopy, so I'm going to be turning the work as if we was to start a new row, and then I'm going to grab my pink yarn and make a slip knot, and I'm going to attach it into that very last stitch we made of the previous row and pull the slip knot through and chain 1 to attach it, and this is going to class as like a slip stitch, this first chain 1. So I've done my chain 1, and now I'm going to do 3 half double crochets, and then I'm going to do a slip stitch into that last pink stitch. So I'm just going to make my first double crochet, then my second, and then my third, and then I'm going to slip stitch into that last stitch like that. And I'm just going to cut these ends because I've weaved them in. Okay, so we've finished the first sort of pink ridge section, so I'm just going to chain 1 and fasten off, and I'm basically just going to repeat that for now the white ridge. So I'm making a slip knot with the white yarn. I'm going to attach it at the first white stitch, pull through and chain 1 to attach it, and then I'm going to make 3 double crochets and then a slip stitch into the last stitch. So there's that's the first double crochet, and then I'll make the second double crochet, and then the third, and then a slip stitch into the last stitch, and then I'll just chain 1 and fasten off. So I'm just basically repeating that all the way across into each sort of section. So I'll do a pink one next, and then a white one, pink one, white one, and then a pink one. So I'm just going to continue that all the way across, and then once I've finished, I'm just going to weave in all of the ends. So I'll come back when that is all finished. So this is what it should be looking like once you have finished the canopy section, and obviously it would just lay across the top of the work. Now I'm going to set this aside, and we're going to be working on the window and the kind of window ledge shelf section. So for the window, you're going to want to grab your blue colour, and you're going to want to make a slip knot. And I'm going to make a chain of 12. Like that. And then, same as we've been doing before, I'm going to make a single crochet into the second back bump from the hook, and then into each back bump all the way across the row. And then I'm just going to chain 1 and turn the work to start row 2. And I'm just going to make 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way across, and I'm weaving this end in as I go. So just 1 single crochet in each stitch. Okay, and then for row 3, I'm just going to chain 1 and turn the work, and then make 1 single crochet into each stitch across. And I'm just going to be repeating that, making rows of single crochet until I have 11 rows in total. So I'm going to come back after I finish my 11 rows, and then I will show you the next step. Okay, so I've just finished my 11th row, and now I'm just going to chain 1 and fasten off. And then you're going to want to grab the yellow colour, I'm just going to make a slip knot, and I'm basically going to be creating a border around the window, and then I'm also going to make a cross detail afterwards. So I'm going to attach the yarn into the top left corner. If you're right-handed, then you can do it in the top right corner. And I'm just going to pull the slip knot through and then chain 1 to attach it. And then I'm going to make 2 single crochets into this corner stitch, like that. And then I'm going to make a single crochet into each stitch across, and when I get to the other corner over here, I'm going to make another 2 single crochets into that stitch. Okay, and then I'm just going to make my 2 single crochets into this corner stitch, like that. And then I'm just kind of repeating the same thing, so I'm going to make a single crochet into sort of each space down the side, and then when I get to the bottom corner I'm going to make a single crochet, 2 single crochets, and then I'm going to do a single crochet into each stitch across the bottom edge, 2 single crochets in this corner, and then just 1 single crochet into each stitch up the side, because we've already done the 2 single crochets over here. So I'm just going to kind of make roughly a single crochet into each space down the side. Okay, now I'm just going to make my 2 single crochets into this corner stitch, and then 1 single crochet into each stitch along the bottom. Okay, and then 2 single crochets into this corner space. Okay, and then just 1 single crochet into each stitch up the side. And then when I get to the top, I'm just going to slip stitch back into that first single crochet. Okay, so now I'm just making the slip stitch back into that first single crochet, and then I'm just going to chain 1 and fasten off. So that's what your window should look like so far, and now we're going to make a cross detail across both sides of the square. So you're going to want to take your yellow yarn and make another slip knot, and you're going to want to insert your hook into the bottom center sort of stitch part of the yellow yarn. So just find that center stitch along the bottom roughly, and go and push your hook from the front to the back like that, and then pull the slip knot through. We're not going to chain 1, we're just going to pull the slip knot through like that, and then we're going to kind of work across horizontally, pushing the hook into the next sort of available blue section across the center, and then I'm going to yarn over and pull the yarn through, 2 loops on the hook, and then I'm just going to pull the first loop through to the second like that, and I'm just going to continue that all the way up, inserting the hook into the next blue sort of stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then just pull through the first loop. And as you can see, we're creating this line going all the way up, and I'm just basically going into each stitch all the way up, making a vertical line. Obviously this way I'm working horizontally, but when you flip it back it is a vertical line. So I'm just making these slip stitches all the way up. Okay, and then I'm just going to make my last slip stitch into the kind of middle top stitch, make a slip stitch, and then just chain 1 and fasten off. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing but across this side now. So I'm going to make my slip knot, and I'm going to insert the hook into the middle stitch on the side, so roughly about here, pushing the hook from the front to the back, and then pulling the slip knot through. like that, and then I'm just literally making slip stitches all the way across the horizontally across the square. And then just slip stitching back into that center stitch on the other side, and then chain one and fasten off. So that is what the square should now be looking like, and now I'm just going to weave in all of these ends. Okay, so this is what it should look like when you have weaved in all of the ends, and now I'm just going to be doing the window ledge shelf section. So you're going to want to take your light brown yarn and make a slip knot, and you can place the slip knot at any corner of the window, it doesn't matter which one, but I'm just going to place it in this corner here. So I'm just going to insert the hook into the one corner stitch and pull the slip knot through, and then chain one to attach it. Now we're going to be making 3 rows of single crochet, and for the first row we're going to make 2 single crochets at either side. So I'm starting off with 2 single crochets into that corner stitch, like that, and then I'm just going to make 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way across, and then I'm going to make 2 single crochets into that corner stitch. So I've reached my corner stitch, I'm going to make 2 single crochets, like that, and then I'm just going to chain 1 and turn the work, and I'm just going to make 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way across. So no increases, just 1 single crochet to each stitch across. And the reason we do 2 single crochets at either side in the beginning is because we want the ledge to kind of widen a little bit. Okay, so I've reached the end of the row, and for the final row I'm just going to chain 1 and turn the work, and I'm just going to make 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way across. So again, no increases, just literally making 1 single crochet into each stitch. And then once you have finished, you're just going to want to chain 1 and fasten off. Okay, and that is what the window is looking like. I'm just going to basically weave in this end, and then the window is all done, and then I'll show you how to make the door. So for the door, I'm just going to make a slip knot with my pink yarn, and I'm going to basically be chaining 13. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing that I've been doing. I'm just going to make a single crochet into the second back bump from the hook, and then into each back bump all the way across the row. Okay, and then once you get to the end of the row, just chain 1, turn the work and make 1 single crochet into each stitch across, just like we've been doing for all of our other items, and then I'm just going to be doing 18 rows in total of single crochet. So after the end of every row, to start the new row, I will chain 1, turn the work, and then just make 1 single crochet into each stitch across. And again, I'm going to be doing that until I have 18 rows in total, and then after that we're going to be moving on to the row which is going to create the kind of more circular arch shape at the top. So I'll come back after I have finished row 18. Okay, so now I have finished my 18 rows of single crochet. I'm going to start the final row, which is row 19. I'm going to chain 1 and turn the work. For my first stitch, I'm just going to make a single crochet into that first stitch, like that. And into the second stitch, I'm going to make a half double crochet, like so. And then I'm going to be making 8 double crochets, so 1 in each stitch. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. and then I'm going to make a half double crochet into the next stitch, and then I'm going to make a single crochet into that final stitch, like that. And then I'm just going to chain one and fasten off. And now I'm just going to be making a border around the outside. So I'm going to grab my dark brown yarn and I'm going to make a slip knot. And you can join the yarn in any corner of the door, but I'm just going to start in this top left corner. And I'm just going to pull the slip knot through and chain one to attach it, like that. And then I'm just going to make a single crochet into the same stitch, and then I'm going to make a single crochet into each stitch all the way around. And then when I get to kind of the side sort of section, I'm just going to be making one single crochet into each part on the side, and then I'm going to single crochet across the bottom, and then single crochet all the way up, and then slip stitch back into that first single crochet that we made. Okay, so I've just done all of my single crochets around the border, and now I'm just going to slip stitch back into that first single crochet, and then just chain one and fasten off. I'm just going to set the door aside for the moment, and I'm just going to show you how to make the open door sign. I'm going to take the white yarn and I'm just going to make a slip knot, and I'm going to be making a chain of 9. And as normal, I'm just going to single crochet into the second back bump from the hook, and then into each back bump all the way across. Then I'm just going to chain one and turn the work, and then I'm just going to make one single crochet into each stitch all the way across, and when I get to the end of the row I'll repeat the same thing, chain one single crochet into each stitch across, and I'm going to repeat that until I have 5 rows in total. Okay, so I've just done my 5 rows of single crochet. Now I'm just going to chain one and fasten off, and then I'm going to take the light brown yarn and I'm going to make a slip knot and attach it to one corner. Just going to attach it to this top left corner, and I'm going to be making a border around the edge. So I'm going to pull the slip knot through and chain one to attach it, and then I'm going to make 2 single crochets into this first stitch, and then I'm going to make 1 single crochet into each stitch across here, and into the corner stitch I'm going to make another 2 single crochets. Just going to make 2 single crochets into this corner stitch, and I'm just going to make a single crochet into each space down the side of the white square. And then I'm going to make another 2 single crochets into the bottom corner stitch. And then I'm just going to single crochet across. When I get to this corner I'm going to make another 2 single crochets. And then I'm just going to make my last few single crochets up the left side of the square. And then I'm just going to slip stitch into that first single crochet that we made, and then I'm going to chain one and fasten off. Okay, so this is what we have so far, and then I'm just going to create a little like hanging loop. So with the same colour yarn, I'm just going to make a slip knot I'm going to attach the yarn sort of into one of the center stitches. So I've got these kind of two center stitches here, and I'm just going to attach the yarn into one of them and pull through. Okay, and then I'm just going to be making a chain of 9. And then I'm going to slip stitch into the next stitch in the center, so this one right here. I'm just going to make a slip stitch like that, and then I'm just going to chain 1 and fasten off. Okay, so we have this kind of hanging sign with a little loop, and I'm going to weave in all of these ends, and then I'll show you the next step. Okay, so I'm now going to show you how to make the ladder. The ladder basically consists of 3 separate shelves. They're like small rectangles that we're going to make, and then we're going to attach like a chain to either side of the 3 shelves and then crochet down the chain so that we create these kind of like side ladder posts. So I'm going to start off by just showing you how to make the first shelf, and you're going to want to make 3 of these. So I'm going to start off with a slip knot, and I'm going to chain 8. That, and then I'm going to flip the chains over, and I'm going to single crochet into the second back bump from the hook, and then I'm going to single crochet into each back bump all the way across. Okay, and then I'm going to chain 1 and start the next row. I'm just going to turn the work, and I'm just going to make 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way across. I'm just weaving in this tail as I go. Okay, and then I'm going to just do the last row, so I'm just going to chain 1, turn the work, and I'm just going to make 1 single crochet into each stitch across. So it's basically just 3 rows of single crochet. Okay, and then you're just going to want to chain 1 and fasten off. So you're just going to want to make 2 more of these ladder shelves so that you have 3 in total, and then I'm going to come back and show you how to do the sort of side post section. Okay, so I've just got my 3 step ladder shelves, and I'm just basically going to sit each one like on top of each other like this. So you've got 3 like steps, and then you're just going to want to take your brown yarn and make a slip knot, and we're going to start off with a chain 6 with our brown yarn. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I'm going to basically pick up my first ladder shelf, and I'm working literally only on the side, the left side of each shelf for this side. So I'm literally just going to pick up sort of a side stitch, and because we've got 3 rows, I'm going to be doing 3 single crochets, and I'm going to make a single crochet into this sort of like side corner like that. So that's going to attach the bottom chain, and then I'm going to do a single crochet into sort of the next side of the rectangle, and then I'm going to make a single crochet into the next side like that. So each single crochet is going to be for each row. Okay, and then I'm going to make another chain of 6, and I'm going to repeat the exact same thing. I'm going to pick up my next shelf, and I'm going to do 3 single crochets up the side. So I'm going into sort of the bottom part of the side of this shelf. Okay, and then I'm going to go into the next sort of side stitch of the shelf, make a single crochet, and then again a single crochet, a third single crochet for that last part of the shelf, and then I'm going to make another chain of 6. Okay, and then I'm just picking up my last shelf and repeating the same thing, 3 single crochets in the side of the shelf. Okay, so once you have reached the last ladder shelf, we're then going to be making a chain of 7 instead of 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so this is what we should have so far. Ignore the ends because we're going to be weaving those in a little bit later. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to turn the work, and we're now going to be working in the kind of the back loops of each chain. So not the back bumps, we're just working in the back loop. So I'm just picking up the top loop of the second chain from the hook and making a single crochet, and I'm just basically single crocheting into each chain. So I'm going to be doing 6 single crochets. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, and last one, 6. Okay, and then we've reached our step ladder section, so I'm just going to be doing 3 single crochets into those side stitches. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then I'm literally just repeating that all the way down. So I'm going to make my 6 single crochets into the kind of top chain. And then I'm going to make my 3 single crochets in those side stitches of the shelf. So it's 1, 2, and 3. And now we've reached the 6 chains again, so I'm going to make my 6 single crochets across the chain. And then again, last 3 single crochets for the last ladder. Okay, and then you should have your 6 chains right here, and I'm literally just going to be making 1 single crochet into each chain. Okay, and then once you have done all of your single crochets, you're just going to chain 1 and fasten off. So when you flip your ladder back over, this is what it should be looking like. You should have a nice line going down the side, and this is going to be one side of the ladder like post, and then we've got our 3 ladder steps, and I'm literally just going to repeat the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to start with the chain 6, and then I'm going to make 3 single crochets into the side of this shelf, and then another 6 chains, another 3 single crochets here, another 6 chains, another 3 single crochets here, and then finishing with a chain of 7, and then turning the work, and I'm literally just going to single crochet all the way down, 1 in each of the 6 chains, and then 1 in each of the 3 single crochets for each ladder. So I'm just going to do that now off camera, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you how to make the flower pots. Okay, so I've just weaved in all of the ends of the ladder, and now I'm going to show you how to make the flower pots with the plants in. So I'm going to be taking my orange yarn, you could also use brown yarn or just whatever colour you want for your pot, and I'm going to make a slip knot, and then I'm going to make a chain of 5. And then I'm going to flip the chains. I'm going to make 1 single crochet into the second back bump from the hook, and then 1 single crochet into the next 3 back bumps. Like that. So you should have 4 stitches in the row. And then I'm just going to turn the work. I'm not going to chain 1, just turning the work. And then I'm just going to make 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way across. Just weaving this end in as I go. Then for row 3, I'm just going to turn the work, and I'm going to completely skip the first stitch, and I'm just going to make a single crochet into the second stitch, and then I'm going to skip the next stitch and make a single crochet into that last stitch. So you should now have 2 stitches in the row, and then I'm going to turn the work, and this is the final row. I'm just going to make 1 single crochet into each stitch. 1 and 2. Okay, and then I'm literally just going to chain 1 and fasten off. And then for the leaf section, I'm just going to grab my dark green yarn and I'm going to make a slip knot. And I'm going to basically make sure that the widest part of the pot is where we're going to be crocheting into. So even though we fastened off here at the bottom, I'm going to turn it this way and we're going to be working in the 4 stitches at the top here. And I'm just going to go into that first one on the top left. If you are right-handed, then you'd be going into the top right. And then just pull the slip knot through and chain 1. Okay, so I'm now just going to be doing 2 single crochets and a slip stitch into each stitch. So I'm going into the first stitch, making 2 single crochets, and then I'm also going to make a slip stitch in that same stitch, like that, and then I'm just going to repeat that into the second stitch, so 2 single crochets and then a slip stitch, and then into the next stitch 2 single crochets and a slip stitch, and then into the last stitch 2 single crochets and a slip stitch. Okay, and then I'm just going to chain 1 and fasten off. Okay, so this is what the plant should be looking like. After you have made your plant, you're going to want to make a second plant, just like this, and then for the kind of plants that will sit on the shelves, you're going to want to make 3 more of the pots, so this shape here in orange, and then I'm going to come back after I've made my extra 3 pots and I'm going to show you how to make the flowers. And then I've just made 3 more plant pots and now I'm going to show you how to make the flowers. Now for this design I'm going to be making 2 sunflowers and 1 like daisy flower, but you can change this up if you want to. You could make 2 daisy flowers and 1 sunflower, or you know, all daisies or all sunflowers, whatever you want. So for each flower I'm going to be starting off by making the stem like section. So I'm going to be making a slip knot with my dark green yarn. And I'm going to grab my first plant pot and I'm going into the second stitch on the widest part of the plant pot. So where there are 4 stitches at the top, I'm going into that second stitch, and then I'm just going to attach the slip knot with a chain 1. Like that. And then I'm going to be making a chain of 6, like this, and then I'm just going to be slip stitching down the chain. So I'm going to be flipping the chain and I'm going into each back bump, and I'm going into the second back bump from the hook and I'm just going to make a slip stitch, and then I'm just making slip stitches into each back bump all the way down the chain. So you should have 6 slip stitches in total, and then I'm going to make my final slip stitch into the third stitch of the plant pot. So we went into the second one when we attached the yarn, and now I'm going to slip stitch into the third stitch. Just make a slip stitch like that, and then I'm just going to chain 1 and fasten off. So that is what the stem is looking like, and then you can just like weave in the end to the back, and you're going to want to do that for all of your plant pots, and then I'm going to be showing you how to do the actual sunflower. Okay, so we're now going to be making the sunflower. So I'm going to be taking my dark brown yarn and I'm going to make a slip knot and a chain 3. Alternatively, you can make a magic ring if you prefer, but I think that this is a much easier way to do it if you're not really familiar with the magic ring. So I'm just going to chain 3 like this, and then I'm going to slip stitch into the third chain from the hook. So 1, 2, 3, slip stitch into that chain, and then I'm going to pull the ring apart until you see this small hole in the middle, and I'm going to make 6 single crochets into that ring. So that's 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Okay, and then I'm just going to pull on the short tail to close the hole. Okay, and then I'm going to start by making a slip stitch into the next stitch with the brown yarn, and I'm going to finish the slip stitch with yellow yarn. So I'm basically just going to insert the hook into the next stitch, so originally the first stitch that we made, and I'm just going to grab my yellow yarn and make a slip knot. Like that. And I'm going to attach the slip knot onto the hook, and I'm going to pull through the stitch and the first loop on the hook with the yellow yarn. So I'm basically making a slip stitch now with the yellow yarn, like that. Okay, and now we're going to be starting the sunflower petals. I'm going to make a slip stitch into the second chain from the hook, and then I'm going to make a single crochet into the next chain, like that. And then I'm going to make a slip stitch into the next stitch of the brown yarn section, so this one right here, like that. And I'm basically just going to be repeating that point all over again. So chain 3, slip stitch into the second chain from the hook, and then a single crochet into the third chain, and then I'm going to make a slip stitch into the next stitch on the brown like bud section. So I'm just going to be repeating the sequence all the way around. Chain 3, slip stitch into the second chain, single crochet into the next chain, and then slip stitch into the next stitch on the bud. So I'm just going to continue that now all the way around. Okay, so I've just done the last slip stitch for the last point, and as you can see there we have the slip stitch that we made when we slip stitched our new colour, so that's that brown stitch there, and then we have our chain 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slip stitch into the next like brown stitch, like that, and then I'm just going to chain 1 and fasten off. I'm just going to cut the brown yarn as well, and then I'm literally just going to weave in all of these ends, and then that is the sunflower part all done. And then I'm going to repeat the steps for the circle in the middle. So for the second flower I'm going to be repeating the same steps I did for the bud in the middle, so 6 single crochets in the ring, and then I'll come back and I'll show you the next step, but just start off with the same pattern that we did right here for the bud. Okay, so I've just done the same thing. I just did 6 single crochets in the ring. This time I've done it with yellow yarn because I wanted to make it like a pink daisy, and I'm going to slip stitch into my first single crochet that I made, and I'm going to finish the slip stitch with my new colour, the pink yarn. So I'm just placing it on the hook, and then I'm going to draw through both loops with the pink yarn, just tighten that long one to secure it, and then I'm going to start my first petal. So my first petal is going to be a chain 2, and then I'm going to go into the second chain from the hook, and I'm just going to do a double crochet into that second chain, that, and then I'm going to slip stitch into the next stitch on the yellow section. So just finding that next stitch, make a slip stitch, that, and that is the sequence. So just chain 2, double crochet into the second chain, and then slip stitch into the next stitch on the yellow section. Okay, so I'm just going to repeat that all the way around. Okay, so now I've reached the end, and then I'm going to chain 1 and fasten off. And then I'm just going to weave in all of these ends, and you're just going to want to basically sew each flower to each stem. So you're going to want to place the flower on top of the stem and then sew with either embroidery thread or yarn or whatever you want. And then I'm going to come back once I've done that, and I'm going to show you how we're going to arrange everything to sew it all together. Okay, so I've just assembled all of my pieces together. I haven't sewn anything together yet, but I just kind of wanted to give you a idea of how everything is going to look once it's sewed down. So everything you kind of see on the top layer, so the pots, the sign, and then the flowers on top of the ladder, they all need to be sewn onto each other first before they are sewn onto the main back part. So you want to sew the door sign to the door and the pots to the window, and then you want to sew the flowers onto the flower pots, and then the actual whole flower pot section to the ladder before you sew the ladder onto the square section here, if that makes sense. So all of the mini components need to be sewn on before you sew the larger components onto the back part. The other thing I wanted to add is that I am going to be doing like a bit of writing across the top here and also on the sign, and I'm just going to be using embroidery thread, this brown embroidery thread for the sign, and then I'm going to be using a dark brown yarn for the sign up here. So I'm using yarn here and embroidery thread here because this is a much smaller space. I'm going to be writing like an open lettering thing here, and then up here I'm just going to be writing florist. But the way you could do it is kind of like sketch out the letters in pencil and then kind of just follow the pencil with the sewing needle around each letter, if that makes sense. Again, that's kind of more of an optional extra step if you wanted to, because it can be quite difficult depending on your like sewing ability. But yeah, I'm going to do that now. So I'm going to sew the lettering first, then sew all of the components on with my embroidery thread, and then I'm going to be sewing each like actual large section to the panel at the back. Okay, so this is what the final kind of result is looking like once you have sewn on everything. So I just used the cream kind of colour embroidery thread all around the edges of each section. For the kind of embroidered writing, I didn't really have much of a plan, to be honest. I just kind of sewed the shape of each letter, and sometimes I would make like a long line. For example, for this L I made a long line down, and then I only made a little line kind of diagonal and then one up to kind of create the curve. So it's just kind of about trial and error. So now I'm just going to be attaching my second panel to this front panel. Okay, so you're going to want to take your second panel and just place it either side. You want to make sure that your tail ends are both in the same top corner, and that means that you are on the right side of the work. And then you're just going to kind of bring them together like this, and depending on whether you want your book sleeve like to come in through the top or through the side, you can either crochet down these sides and the bottom for the book to come down through the top, or you can crochet the top and bottom and then one edge, if that makes sense. But I think I'm going to do it so that the open section here is on this side. So I'm taking my main colour and I'm going to make a slip knot like this. I'm going to be starting in this corner. I'm going to be working all the way down, up this side, and then along this top edge, and then leaving this part open. So I'm just going to kind of flip this work around, and I'm just going to start in the corner, inserting my hook into both corners and then pulling the slip knot through. Okay, and then I'm just going to do like 2 single crochets into the same space because we are at a corner. And then I'm literally just going to basically single crochet through both sides all the way across, and then when I get to this corner I'm going to do 2 single crochets. Okay, so I've just done my 2 single crochets in this corner here, and now I'm literally just going to make single crochets through both sides on this edge, and then when I get to this corner I'm going to do 2 single crochets again. Then I'm just going to single crochet all the way up here, and then this is where I'm going to stop in this corner, and I'll do 2 single crochets in that corner, and then I'll just fasten off. So it's pretty simple, sort of similar to like how we did the window border, the same sort of like pattern, but this time we're just crocheting through 2 separate panels to make them join rather than just one. Okay, so I've just finished crocheting all around this section here, and now I'm just going to weave in the ends with my hook. So I'm just going to kind of fold the inside out, and then I'm just going to pull the strings through kind of the inside of the work. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing and giving this video a thumbs up. And make sure you check out my members section where you can get early access to videos. And if you have any suggestions of what you'd like me to make next, feel free to leave them in the comments below. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.